Have you ever wondered what living your true, authentic life would be like? And doing so fearlessly, undeniably, and unapologetically? Is such a way of life even possible? My answer is yes, it is. Welcome to my podcast, From Fearful to Fierce. My name is Sarah Odogrosfordna, and I will be using this space to share simple, easy to implement tips on how to become the best version of yourself by living authentically, unapologetically, undeniably, and fearlessly. From Fearful to Fierce is based on my FFTF trilogy, which is available on Amazon, by the way. A series on the importance of knowing, accepting, and loving one's self. So, whether you are struggling with imposter syndrome, self doubt, or just looking to level up your confidence game, this podcast has got you covered. So, get ready to take on the world one fearless step at a time as this podcast unravels and tackles some of the issues that prevents us from becoming the best version of ourselves. Once again, I'm your host, Sarah Odogrosfordna. In the last episode, we spoke about words and explore their importance, even in the way we live our day-to-day life. And from the story that I gave of my sister as an example, we see that the words that we speak, they can completely change the outcome that we will have in our day-to-day lives. And even when we want the positive, if we speak the negative, we will not get the positive that we actually want. But although words are vital, as we saw in that episode, they are not the only barrier in our self building or self awareness process. Attitude also contributes. That is our attitude. And so when we talk about becoming the best version of ourselves, our attitude, in other words, the mindset that we adopt to the process of the daily workings of our life also plays a very major role, as you will see in the story that I'm going to share. And this time around, I'm going to use my own personal story. Last time, it was my sister's story when we spoke about altering it with your words. So the title of this episode is Alter It with Your Attitude. When I first moved to Austria, I think I may have shared this story as a kind of an aside in other episode. I did not come here. It was quite reluctant. And I was married at that time, of course. And my husband just woke up one day and decided he wanted to come back home because he's an Austrian. And I wasn't prepared to come to relocate to Austria. My life was very good in Nigeria. I had everything that I needed there that was very important to me. Anyone who knows anything about me knows that family and friends are very important to me. A lot of my family members were in Nigeria, and my friends were also in Nigeria. So I had what one could say were the two most important things in my life. All of those things in Nigeria, which I didn't want to move to Austria. But you know how it is when you're married. When you sign that dotted line, you say I do to just about everything, even things that you don't realize at the time. And this was clearly my case. So to Austria, we came. And because I didn't want to come to Austria, you could say I was made to do it in a sense. I came here with a whole lot of attitude. And so when I got to the country, of course, it did not help that the culture was completely different from my culture. For a start, people were more, I could say, more emotionally aware in my country. That's not to say that people are not emotionally aware in Austria. I could say that people were more open to emotions in my country, my own culture. And we just let our feelings show. We showed our feelings and we're very generous in showing our feelings. But the case was not the same in Austria. I found that people were much more in control of their emotions, and sometimes not in a very positive way, you could say. And when I wanted to express myself, I just felt that I could not properly and fully express myself the way that I was doing when I was back in my mother country. And so, like I said, when I came here and I saw all of that, the thinking in my mind at that time was, okay, so I'm being made to go to relocate to this country that I don't want to relocate. Say I'm going to go there, and I'm going to go there with the attitude that I'm just trying it out, and I'm going to show every indication of why I should not stay, why it was not going to be possible for me to stay. And because when I arrived in Austria, there were a whole bunch of indications. And I just caught hold of this. And so, first thing I said to my husband, there were people are not very friendly. I don't speak the language. All kinds of, I could call it, I call it now excuses, but at that time they were very, very much valid to me. And so I just about pick on everything. And because of the cultural difference or differences in so many respect, I had more than enough evidence to point to my husband and tell him that these were the reasons that I just could not stay in the country. And of course, he himself too had made up his mind that he needed us to stay in the country. So I was in this point, sort of like between the devil and, and the deep blue sea. I could not go back because I was married to this man and we had two children. I didn't want to leave my kids. So, on one hand, I didn't want to stay in the country. On the other hand, I did not want to leave my kids. So, you could say I was, in a sense, forced to stay. And because it was something that I was not placed to do, I displayed all kinds of attitude. The country itself, although were very, very culturally different, it had lots of pleasing things. Austria is a very beautiful country. The natural terrain is really, really amazing. And one other thing that a lot of people who know me for is that I love walking, I love hiking. I just like to explore nature. And Austria is such a fantastic place for that. But even this enjoyment, or you could say, of the things that I would have really enjoyed to do, I just could not, express myself in it because I had that attitude. I want to go back home. So the things that would have made me enjoy the country, I refused to see it. And because I refused to see it, every single tiny, cultural things that sort of like pinched me in a way that I was not happy with. I use that as aha to show my husband every single thing that I would experience. I would say, aha, look at this. This is why we shouldn't stay here. This is why I want to go back home. This is why we should go back home. As far as I was concerned, home was Nigeria. Even for my kids, home was Nigeria. Even though by that time, actually, before I came to Austria, I was already an Austrian citizen. I had the Austrian passport. I was really an Austrian. I held the passport, but that was just, you could say, not just technicality as far as I was concerned. Even the language, even going to learn German, for you to actually learn something and let what you're learning sink in, you have to enjoy the environment you're learning that thing in. I love languages because I speak other languages. So for me, not learning German was a way of showing I don't really want to stay in the country. I felt that if I learned German at that time, it would be like that, oh, I've decided now that it was okay. And as far as I was concerned, I was not okay at that time staying in the country. And so, even the German learning, I refused to put the kind of effort I should have put in. Long story short, everything about being in the country rubbed me up the wrong way. And that was the attitude I brought into it. And for many, many years, actually, this attitude actually prevented me from fully immersing myself in the culture and in the country and the culture of the country until I too had an epiphany. I remember very well the day that that epiphany occurred. I remember that I went to one of the parks and it was very sunny. For the first time, it seemed like I was seeing everything. For the first time, the flowers that were blooming, it was late spring, the flowers, the new trees, everything sprouting, greens everywhere. And all of a sudden, I just stopped. And I remember thinking, wow, this is beautiful. And then from that moment, I began to appreciate the beauty of the country. And the more I appreciated the beauty of the country, the more I saw more to be grateful for. I saw that things were very, very organized. It wasn't that I wasn't seeing the organization, that I was, so rather, that I hadn't seen the organization before, I wasn't seeing it before. But this was the moment that I truly appreciated the organization, the fantastic organization that went into keeping everything so neat, so workable, so beautiful, so well tended. Even in the woods, what they call the Vienna woods, basically forests, everything in there was well tended. The forests were kept very, very clean. The woods were kept very, very clean. The essentials like the toilets in there, they were always kept clean. The tissue papers, all kinds of stuff. Something very, very unusual that you will not find in most countries, not just in Africa, but in most countries, because I've traveled to many places all over the world. So some of these things you would not find. And then I realized, oh my gosh, what it must take for those things to be working like that. It wasn't just happening. And when I realized that, I began to pray for the people. I began to pray for the leadership of the country. I began to pray for even the people who were not so friendly, even the so called, well, not so called, because I cannot say so called because they actually do exist, even the racial things, the racism that was happening. I began to pray for them and I began to wish them, and I began to pray for more open eyes, more understanding, emotional awareness, empathy. And the more I prayed for the country, the more good I was seeing about the country. And the more good I saw about the country, the more I began to enjoy myself. And so, what did I learn from this? One of the things about becoming the best version of yourself, because apart from speaking words, which are very important, be the change that you want to see. But the moment I started seeing the good in the country, the negatives were still there. Of course, racism was still there. Unfriendly people were there, lack of smile, not much emotion. They were still there, but they were not affecting me the way that they were affecting me when I came with the attitude. Because I realized that when you have so much hate for people just because they're different from you, you're doing yourself harm. You're not doing me harm. Of course, it's not a good thing to receive, to be hated just because of the color of your skin. It's not a good thing to receive. But instead of it souring my heart, it was actually making me feel pity for them because I was saying to myself, wow, these are people who have everything to be joyful for, fantastic social amenities, things that actually work, roads in medical care, you name it, government that actually, they care enough about the people to actually do the work that they're supposed to. They are put in there by the people for the benefit of the people. And most of the time they actually do the work that they are put there to do for the benefit of the people. And that was something really, really commendable. So even when I knew that they were hating on other people, I felt pity for them and pray for them instead. And because I was doing that, everything about me changed. The way I reacted to the people also changed. Austria is very much a very hierarchy kind of country, in the sense that even if you know someone for 20 years, if they don't give you permission to speak to them informally, you will still be speaking to them formally. You have what they call the do and the see. The see being what you use to reference someone, that's an informal way of referencing someone. And so you are not allowed to use, if you're not given permission to use do for someone, you could know them for 20 years and still not reference them with the do. You always see very, very informal. And so before I would walk into a shop, but as soon as I was in front of a complete person who didn't know me, a cashier, they would just say do to me. And for me, that was quite disrespectful because I felt, why do to me and not do to other people? And that used to make me so crazy. Just because of the color of your skin, it was not very pleasant. And so when I first came to Austria, that used to make me so crazy, the indignity of it. But then when my attitude changed, rather than that making me angry, I will correct them. And I'll correct them very forcefully. I'll actually make the person feel very silly. And they would that embarrass them. In fact, that worked better than me getting just up in the air and upset. The fact that I put them right there in your place, like, and it worked because I brought a different attitude. The topic today is alter it with your attitude. You say in the previous episode, we saw that becoming the best version of yourself is understanding the import and impact of the spoken words. However, if your spoken words are not backed up by your action, which your attitude, the mindset you bring to whatever you're doing, as seen in the example of my sister, who, when she realized that the words that she spoke had contradicted the outcome that she wanted, changed those words, reversed those words immediately. And because she did, she now got the outcome that she wanted. So, in the same vein, we saw that although words are important, attitude are also important, because if your spoken words are not backed up by your actions, you will not get the result you want. The action that backed up a realization of the need to change the trajectory of the happenings around her was the intentional immediate reversal of her words. Her attitude was not, oh well, I said it, that, it has happened, nothing I can do about that now. But it was just complete opposite, because she had the wisdom to realize that it is never too late, that something can always be done to change the trajectory of whatever is happening in our life. And once my sister realized that her mistake and reversed her words, she had the outcome she wanted. It came at a price, of course, because although they can be amended, mistakes can never be erased. Once you make a mistake, even though you can amend them, you can't erase them. And in the process, it's costing you something. And just as it happened in my own case, because of that attitude that I brought at the beginning, for many, many years, I was not able to speak a word of German, although I'm a lover of languages. The moment that my attitude changed, the people did not change. Those who wanted to be racist, they remain racist. But because my own attitude changed, it changed then things around me. I mean, these days I look at Austria as my country. I look at myself as coming from both countries. I come from Nigeria, I come from Austria. I can take the good of my mother country, Nigeria, and take the good of Austria and put them together and use that to form me into the kind of person that I want to be. not just for my mother country, Nigeria, but for also my second country, Austria. And because I can bring this attitude into being, I can then go out and transform lives. And isn't that what we all want at the end of the day? Isn't that what impact is all about? Thank you for tuning in. Once again, this is From Fearful to Fierce by Sarah Udo Grosswagner. Until next time, keep striving to become the best version of yourself. Live intentionally, be unapologetic, be bold, be fearless. Before I forget, don't forget to subscribe to my podcast, like the different episodes, and press the notification button so that when I bring out new episodes, you'll be notified. Thank you very much. Until next time.